Hello, everyone. We're going to get started shortly. First, I'd like to welcome you to today's event, Crafting the Transatlantic Green Marketplace, which is a stakeholder engagement event under the EU-U.S. Trade and Technology Council. My name's Camille Ford, and I'm a researcher at the Center for European Policy Studies, and I coordinate the Trade and Technology Dialogue, the TTD for short. The TTD is a European Commission-funded project that supports through research and stakeholder engagement the EU-U.S. TTC process. Before we start, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone who was involved in the organization of the event, and a big thank you in particular to Andrea Evans from Forum Europe, who is the mastermind behind all of this. But without further ado, yes, a round of applause. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Executive Vice President for the European Commission, Valdis Dombrovskis, to welcome you all. Thank you.
Madam Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I am honored to welcome you to the Crafting the Transatlantic Green Marketplace stakeholder event that we are organizing under the EU-U.S. Trade and Technology Council. To start, let me just say how excited I am about the great interest this event has generated among transatlantic stakeholders. And I'm also thankful to very hard work from several organizations in the US and in the EU throughout the preparation of the event. You believed in this, and without you, this would not have happened. And once we opened the registration to wider public, we were delighted to see enthusiastic response we got. So we have here today a wide range of representatives from our business and civil societies. This shows that the topic is pressing and the time to act is now. The green agenda is central on both sides of the Atlantic. We all agree that we are on a cusp of momentous economic transformation with opportunities but also challenges. To meet the climate objectives we have set out, we need to work together. When it comes to addressing climate change, the case for collective action is compelling. Our planet is your planet. And if we will lead the way, others will follow. So the US and the EU have a responsibility to act and to act together. This is why we are here today. This is why we have decided to put the green transition at the center of the TTC agenda when we agreed to launch the Transatlantic Initiative on Sustainable Trade. We were convinced that the green transition also holds immense opportunities. It will unlock new business opportunities and create more jobs for our workers. However, we also must be aware that moving our economies onto more sustainable paths will be challenging. There will be risks and there are adjustments to make. To stay on course and to avoid backtracking, we need to be quick in creating the right conditions to allow our firms and citizens to seize the opportunities from the green economy. So how can we do this? Well, we can throw money at parts of the economy and hope that they will invest and come on board. However, this is costly and we risk undermining each other's policies. To create a good case for businesses to lead on the economic transformation we want, the right option is to make the most of our exceptional economic relationship. The EU and US are unique partners. Our economic strengths combined accounts to 42% of global GDP and 29% of global trade in goods and services. Our transatlantic marketplace is the largest and deepest commercial relationship in the world. Trade across the Atlantic has been hitting one record after another. In 2022, the exchange came to $1.6 trillion, or otherwise said, $4 billion a day, and this is 15% increase to compare with pre-pandemic levels. All this is underpinned by $5.3 trillion of mutual investment. This is also an all-time record. This matters for thousands of companies on the two sides of the Atlantic and for the jobs of millions of people. It is an asset that we need to protect and maximize as we change our economic structures to meet the climate challenge. If we do this, not only will accelerate the green transition, but will also show joint leadership and enhance our economic security. This introduction leads me to spell out why we have convened you all today. First, we are here to use trade as a catalyst for win-win economic adjustment. A stronger, more sustainable, and more resilient economy will not be achieved by looking inward. Our firms and people they employ need scale to make their investments worthwhile. They need markets to sell their products. They need fair competition to be efficient. And this is what Transatlantic Marketplace offers. Second, to make the Transatlantic Marketplace a real Transatlantic Green Marketplace, one that is better equipped to accelerate the green transition, we need to ask for the views of those on the ground. That is why we are eager to listen to you and how we can build a stronger, more sustainable, and more resilient transatlantic marketplace. The key questions we have for you are the following. What sectors will be core for the green transition, and what we should therefore direct our attention to? Where do you see untapped opportunity for transatlantic collaboration? How can we ease bilateral trade for you? How do we empower consumers and workers in this process? So I'm sincerely looking forward to know what insights these discussions will bring. And let me conclude by saying that we are not here to promote yet another set of buzzwords. For us, the transatlantic green marketplace already exists, and it is already a key element of the green transition. But we also believe that there is so much untapped potential that we need to unleash. So my message is very simple. We need your help. We need your advice. Make your voice heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those thoughtful remarks, EVP Dombrovskis. Up next, we have remarks from the U.S. Trade Representative, Ambassador Catherine Tai, who's joining us via a pre-recorded message.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Catherine Tai, the United States Trade Representative. I first want to thank the EU for co-sponsoring this important event, and especially my friend, Executive Vice President Dombrovskis, for being such a great partner. We spent the day together yesterday at the TTC Ministerial and covered a lot of ground. Our transatlantic trade relationship is important, and I am so proud of the work that we have accomplished this past year. But we know that there is more that we can do to use trade as a force for good for our people and our planet. And this is especially true when we're talking about our shared goals, like addressing global steel and aluminum excess capacity and emissions intensity, strengthening the resilience and sustainability of our supply chains, and ensuring a just and inclusive green transition. These are key pillars to the Biden-Harris administration's trade agenda to deliver tangible benefits to working people and their communities. And the TTC and the TIST are central to the transatlantic relationship to further deepen our cooperation on these issues. Yesterday, we opened this event with a workshop focused on labor and the just transition. I was so pleased to see such a robust participation from our labor and business communities on both sides of the Atlantic. Stakeholders from labor and business engaged in productive discussions on issues related to the green transition and how we can create good-paying jobs as a part of our climate policy and investments. We also talked about the importance of workers having that seat at the table to engage on environmental issues that directly impact them. President Biden often says that when he thinks climate change, he thinks jobs, and I completely agree. And not just that, when we think climate change, we think good jobs. The green transition is an opportunity to equip and empower more communities across our societies, and you all play an important role in making that happen. We need everyone's voices, especially workers' voices, to shape and build policies that will affect their and our future. It's more than just having folks at the table, though. It's about incorporating their priorities into the heart of our work, because only then can we really build our middle classes together instead of pitting them against each other. This is also at the heart of our work on advancing our shared decarbonization and climate priorities. We are collaborating on innovative ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in energy intensive industries, while also focusing on making our supply chains more resilient and sustainable for the clean economy. Tackling the climate crisis and advancing sustainable trade policy is not easy. Trust me, I know it's hard work. And we need new, innovative approaches to solve today's novel problems. And this is why your input is so central to our work. The time that you invested into organizing this event will not go unnoticed, and we look forward to hearing your ideas on how we can move forward together. My first speech as the US Trade Representative was back in April of 2021, and it was on this very topic of trade policy, the environment and the climate crisis. So much has changed since then, including ongoing and increasing geopolitical challenges. But one thing that remains constant is the Biden Harris administration's commitment to tackle the climate crisis and to bring about a just and inclusive green transition for workers. We know that we will do this together with trusted partners like the EU and all of you. This is truly a team effort. No one government or organization or company can do this alone. There is incredible potential in the green economy, but that potential will only be fully realized if we are courageous enough to forge new paths, empower our people, and deliver real, lasting change for the better. That's the kind of future I know we can build together. Thank you so much for all that you do, and I wish you a productive event.
Thank you to Ambassador Tai for taking the time to record those remarks for us today. Up next, we'll have a framing session, and I'd like to invite to the stage Rupert Schlegelmish, Director for the Americas Agriculture and Food Safety at the European Commission, and Sushan Dermijian, Assistant U.S. Trade Representative for Small Business, Market Access, and Industrial Competitiveness, to the stage. So first off, thank you both so much for joining us today and being here in front of the TTC stakeholders that have joined us. I wanted to ask as a first question, we just got the political context from EVP Dombrovskis and Ambassador Tai. How do we bring it down to the practical level for the stakeholders that are here today? What does the implementation of the Transatlantic Initiative for Sustainable Trade look like more concretely for the people working at the intersection of the businesses impacted and organizations? Would you like to go first, Sushan?
Sure. Thank you, and thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure as well to welcome you to the Transatlantic Initiative on Sustainable Trade. Today's event clearly demonstrates the broad interest in advancing our joint US and EU objectives in promoting sustainability through trade. And today's sessions are a great opportunity to share views and ideas on how we can cooperate with our EU partners and our stakeholders to develop and implement initiatives in line with the TIST's key elements, which are a sustainable business environment for the transatlantic marketplace, resilient and sustainable supply chains for the clean economy, benefits for workers and consumers in the green economy, and a global path for the green economy. We launched the TIST last year to establish a forum where the US and EU can work together to help accelerate the transition to a climate neutral and circular economy to the benefit of businesses, workers, and consumers on both sides. And this is clearly a broad and multifaceted objective, and the practical aspect of the TIST work program is to develop priority areas where we can jointly work to achieve meaningful results. And I think from our perspective, that involves both concrete actions we can take in the short to medium term, as well as longer term projects that we will need to be working on over a period of time, because this is an ongoing project and one that will change as well. And the continued engagement with stakeholders such as yourselves will help us identify areas where our work together can have meaningful results that impact both our commercial and trade interests as well as our sustainability and climate objectives.
Thank you. Rupert, please feel free to compliment.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Camille, and thank you, Sushan, for these words. Well, I mean, my short answer to how do we break down this initiative to the practical level is just in front of me. Basically, you are the answer how we're going to break it down into something practical. From the macro level, we devised this idea when the politics changed, in particular in the United States, from, I would say, a very skeptical, if not non-existent green policy. That changed with the Biden administration. Suddenly we had a Green Deal, we had net zero initiatives in Europe, and we had the Inflation Reduction Act. I will leave aside the issue that we might have with the Inflation Reduction Act. It was a major policy change. And our idea was not only to say, well, you know, we might have an issue with some of this, but the main thrust is really good. So what is the positive thing that we can do under the Transatlantic Partnership to make the green transition not only happen in the US or in Europe, but to leverage, I hate that word, but to make use of the transatlantic space, which is the biggest investment and trading space that we have. So let's see, what does this green transition actually mean in practice? We had under the Trade and Tech Council already work streams on methodology for for carbon measurement embedded in products. We had work on green procurement ongoing. We looked at standard plastic recycling, things like that. They were all there, but we said this is not enough to get the politics moving and to get you on board some of these issues. So we devised one set of thrust, and of course, not only the thrust of what's going on, but also place and space for new ideas. And this is why, to have this event today, we said, okay, we have the headlines, we have the paper, the program, the work program for the Trade Transatlantic Initiative. But now let's go back to you, and we'll give you the space to say, what do you want to talk about when it comes to your business and to your interest? And this is why, if you look at the sessions, we have all kinds of power generation. We have questions of cement. How do you do that? We have questions dealing with all kinds of issues which come up when you actually try to trade and invest across the Atlantic. So the practical answer will, in the end, be what comes out of these sessions. And we are really, really interested to hear from you, because we can't make it up. We can give you some headlines, but then it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupert. You got at this a little bit in your answer just now, but what in particular about the Trade and Technology Council makes it an ideal forum for these discussions? We're on the sidelines of the sort of TTC5, TTC check-in yesterday, and what makes it, other than those existing work streams that you mentioned, what do you think the TTC has to offer in particular to advance this work versus other work streams that the EU and the US have?
Well, the TTC is the best possible instrument we have. We don't have a formal trade agreement or regulatory cooperation agreement with the United States. We have bits and pieces, but the TTC is a very flexible program because it's born out of the wish to do more and better with all the limitations that we might have, to talk about our economic interest. And it goes from anything from economic security to export controls, but also to the positive agenda. So the TTC is like a vehicle that you can use. It has certain backup, also like the program that we are actually financing the meeting today. But it also has, I think, the political backing by our leaders to make it work in detail that we wouldn't have otherwise. So the TTC is really the vehicle we're using. We can fill it with new ideas. I said that already, but I think that's really the important point. We can invent new things as long as we both carry them on both sides of the Atlantic. And that's why we chose the TTC as the key model or way to get on with these important questions.
Thank you. Would you like to compliment, Sushan?
Sure. I mean, I think Rupert's absolutely right. The TTC under the Biden-Harris administration is the foremost forum for engaging with our EU partners on a range of trade and commercial issues. So it's clearly the best home for looking at the whole range of issues that fall under sustainable trade. Obviously, the focus on technology, the sustainability depends so much on technology that the working groups under the TTC, as Rupert has said, are really the key discussion areas where we can address some of the technology issues as well that are really important to meeting our sustainability objectives. Also, the participation of key ministers in TTC, both on the US side and the EU side, they represent departments and agencies that are also very actively involved in our sustainability work domestically. So I think it's really the only place we have where we can bring all of these strands together for some active discussions and for initiating projects that we can implement.
Thank you. And I think taking even a step back from today and the TTC, there is a broader geopolitical context here that is at play. So Rupert, I'll start with you because last week the EU unveiled 5 new initiatives as part of its economic security strategy. And how do we fit more broadly TIST and that work program into this broader economic security strategy that seems to be increasingly aligned between the EU and the US in certain ways?
Yeah, thank you, Camille. Well, obviously, you know what the economic security strategy is about in detail. It's about inward, outward investment, looking at that, export controls. But the bigger picture is, of course, we are now in a process to really assess how we want to deal with some of the more difficult partners in the world to make sure that we are economically secure. And that has a cost. That means, as we now say, de-risking. It basically means maybe stopping some kind of business or not allowing certain transactions. And of course, the other side of that is you have to strengthen the work that you have with your partners. It just can't be that we all just say we can't do certain things in the rest of the world, and at the same time, we can't do things with each other. So the other side of this coin is to really reinforce our work with those parts of the world economy that we trust also for difficult parts, but also that we trust that we work together on issues in the TTC, in the trade, the Transatlantic Initiative, to make sure that also our business can thrive, because the cost has to be minimized if we can. And what is better than working with your partners to scale up, to have a real big marketplace where you can do the kind of things which might be too risky elsewhere. It's not all about security in the classic sense, but it's also of having safe, predictable markets and using our common knowledge, which sometimes is very difficult to say what is actually security, dual use, what is not. But within the transatlantic space, I think we are safe and we should use it.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I think our future economic security is going to depend on how we confront and address climate change now. So in that regard, I think this initiative is relevant to our long-term economic security. And in addition, when we think about economic security and resilience of our supply chains, one of the areas we are looking at actively, both individually as well as jointly, is ensuring a resilient supply chain for the inputs and technologies that will support our ability to confront our climate situation and objectives. So I think in that regard, the TIST is a place where we can work to strengthen our economic security through our cooperation on sustainability.
Great. Thank you so much for providing that context. So bringing it back to this room, though, I wanted to ask, to close today's framing session, what words of advice might you have for the stakeholders as they go into these sessions? What should their recommendations aim towards? What should their discussions aim towards today to get the most that they can out of those sessions? You can start, Sushan, this time.
All right. Well, I think first, I think it's great that we have such a variety of panels covering a range of issues, but those are only a small fraction of all the issues that we will face as we address sustainability and climate change. So I think we have to go into this recognizing there's still a lot to do, and that this is going to be an ongoing conversation. But at the same time, I think my advice or encouragement to the participants is to think of concrete steps that you can recommend that we take, in the short term as well as the medium and long term. Otherwise, this will just be an ongoing conversation. And as I think Rupert has said, and Ambassador Tai and the Executive Vice President Dombrovskis have said, we want to be able to act and make progress in the short term as well as cooperate in the longer term. So we really will value ideas on steps, no matter how small, that we can take, again, in the short term to start moving towards our objectives under the TIST.
Yes, I think Sushan is right. It has to be, even if it's small, it should be as concrete as possible. We all know that many of these issues are very, very complex. I don't understand many of these issues, to be quite honest, but you do. So please tell us what you would like to see in this very complex question. Thanks God, it's mainly about new regulation, not about old one, which is much more difficult to talk about. Let us know concretely what you think should be done. Don't be shy. And please be transatlantic. We don't want to sort of come up with self-serving ideas which maybe help one particular stakeholder company. It really should be carried by both sides of the stakeholder community of the Atlantic. That's the success formula that I think makes the most sense. So you don't have to convince somebody contre cœur, as we say in good French, against his own will, but that we have a joint vision that this helps both of us, and we can go forward with the support, and then the politicians will listen on both sides as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So on that note, we'll be concluding today's framing session and heading to a brief break. But of course, first, we should thank our guests for taking the time today to be with us and for their advice to all the stakeholders. So a warm round of applause to Sushan and Rupert, please. After the break, you'll be starting with the breakout sessions at 10 a.m. sharp. So please be ready. And if you need anything, you know where to find me. Thank you.